Hello, welcome to Leaderonomics Show. I'm Evelyn Tay. In this episode, our special guest is Noel Tichy, Professor of Management and Organizations from the University of Michigan, also the Director of Global Business Partnerships. Tichy is a strong believer that leaders should be able to teach. But what's the relevance of teaching? And why should leaders encourage interactive discussions rather than commanding? Watch this exclusive interview with Noel Tichy. Special thanks to Urban Forum, only on the Leaderonomics Show.
Welcome to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm with Noel Tichy, professor at the Ross School of Business from Michigan. Welcome to the show, Noel. Great to have you here with us. And
Thank you very much.
You're kind of famed for a lot of things. For one instance, being part of GE's Croton Wheel organization. And one of the things you talk a lot about is that the heart of leadership is ideas. What's that mean? Explain that a little bit.
Well, actually, the heart of business is having an idea that makes money, or the heart of any organization are the ideas behind that organization. What it is you do to make a difference in the world. That's what I mean by ideas.
A lot of people say ideas are cheap. Everybody has tons of ideas. It's not about the ideas. It's about getting the ideas to fruition.
It actually goes back to something that Peter Drucker framed years ago, which he talks about the theory of the business, and that businesses are built around a core set of ideas. Whether it be Henry Ford having an idea to mass produce cars, which was a new idea at the time, or Thomas Edison to have the idea around electricity and the light bulb. So when you cut to the core, all organizations start with some central idea.
Okay, and then what happens once you have that idea?
Well, if you're successful, you translate that idea into an organization.
Right.
You build a set of values to support that, so you can have ideas, values supporting each other. Then you've got to teach it and emotionally energize, in a big organization, thousands of people.
And you advocate that CEOs must be great teachers, or must have a teachable point of view, right?
That's the concept I have.
Talk us through that.
Good leaders have to have a teachable point of view about what makes the organization successful. It's no different than a tennis coach, for crying out loud. If you go to a tennis camp, they have to have a teachable point of view how to teach tennis. The ideas, how do you hold the racket, the forehand, the backhand, the rules of tennis. If you're a good coach, you have a set of values. You have a certain kind of etiquette, certain kind of work ethic, values, support, ideas. Then you have to have a teachable point of view. How do you motivate people? Use the simple tennis example, sense of well-being. How am I going to get you work 8 hours a day? Going to pay you money for every good shot, or am I going to give you a sense of accomplishment, teamwork? And then the last part about a teachable point of view is what I call EDGE. Yes, no decision based on your values and ideas. And whether you're a tennis coach or running the General Electric company, ideas, product, services, distribution channels, customer segments, how do we make money? Values for 330,000 people. To play on this team, these are the values. How do I then emotionally energize 300,000 people in 80 countries? And then how do I make the tough decisions?
Yep. And speaking about teaching, right? It's not something that you see many CEOs do. Yet you advocate strongly that CEOs must be teachers, right? How does one do that?
Yeah, I think great leaders need to be great teachers, because especially in a world that's based on intellectual capital, it's all about people. And if you're going to have your people be better tomorrow, you've got to be teaching them, but not in a command and control fashion. I talk about virtuous teaching cycles.
It shouldn't be a one-way teaching.
No, it's back and forth, where I learn as much from you as you learn from me. As the leader, I have to set the framework, the stage, but then I have to create an interactive, I talk about virtuous teaching cycle. Teach, learn, teach, learn.
So and when you say teach, learn, the CEO or leader who teaches needs to be learning from the students also, right?
Absolutely.
How does that work? I mean, is that an example
Great
of that?
example is Roger Enrico when he was CEO of PepsiCo.
Yep.
He would bring 10 vice presidents off for 5 days. No consultants, no professors. Roger. He taught leadership. He taught them about
He did it all for 5 days himself.
5 days by himself, 8 in the morning till 11 at night. And he would be the one, it's time to look at your 360 feedback, take out your feedback, let's talk about the feedback. You would help each other, coach each other, but I, Roger, am there as the facilitator. The end of 5 days, you got to go back to your business, whether it be Frito-Lay or Pepsi, with a 100-day growth project for your business. And then we're all going to get back together in 100 days. How did you do? Roger was the sole teacher, nobody else. That's how he discovered the current CEO of Pepsi, Indra Nooyi.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you know, and it's not just Roger. We're working with CP in Thailand, another 300,000 person organization. The chairman is in all of our programs teaching for days.
And a person must be personally motivated to do this, right? I mean, what drives them to want to teach? How do we get other CEOs to do that? You raise a good point.
There's only, unfortunately, a small minority of leaders that really get it and do that. And the ones that do get a lot of reward out because they're learning. When I was at GE, Jack Welch would love to come to Crotonville, not to download, but to come away with new ideas from the people there. And so if you look at teaching in an action learning environment, you're smarter as a result of the session than when you went in. Traditional leaders come in and download one way. They're no smarter than when they came in.
Yep. You spoke about GE, and it's interesting that I guess one of your first early books, one of my favorites actually, was "Control Your Destiny or Somebody Else Will."
Who wrote that book?
I don't know, but tell us a little bit about the big insight from that book. I mean, what are one or two insights that you think we can learn from?
Yeah, well, one of the deals I had with Jack Welch, he asked me to leave the University of Michigan and revamp their leadership development at Crotonville. And I agreed.
Why did he do that?
Why did he ask?
Yeah.
Because I'd been teaching there for a number of years.
Okay.
He saw what I was doing with action learning in a small part of Crotonville, and he said, I think I want this guy to come in and shake the place up.
Okay.
And so I decided, okay, I'll do that. But the deal with Welch was, if I do that, when I go back to the University of Michigan, I want to write the book on how you've transformed GE, because he'd been in the job for
about 5, 6 years.
Probably 5 or 6 years, and I knew he was going to stay probably for a full 20 years.
Yep.
So I took 5 years to write that book.
Okay.
And it was really trying to tell the transformation story honestly, with a lot of real life stories in it, and then a handbook at the end of saying, okay, how do you apply this in other settings?
Yep. No, and it was fantastic because I read it at a time where it helps you with personal transformation as much as it does with organizational transformation. Yeah.
Well, I ended up with a little framework on transformational leadership that basically to transform any organization is a 3-act drama. Act 1 is wake the organization up for need for change, like going into a burning movie theater and yelling, fire. If you stop there, all you do is create chaos. So you've got to use the fire example. You've got to give them a vision of where the exits are, get them committed to that vision, and then mobilize them to get out of there. And then the 3rd act, using the fire example, is the reason you have fire drills in schools every country in the world is you want the vision built into the fabric of the organization. Right. So the alarm goes off, the kids know, they get in line, they get out of the building. Same in an organization. You wake the organization up for need for change, give it a new vision, but then Welch had to re-architect the whole thing, and that's part of why I was there. We had to change all the HR systems, change the organization structure to support the new vision.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break right now, and we'll be right back here with Noel Tichy here on the Leaderonomics Show. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm with Noel Tichy. Special thanks to Urban Forum for bringing him down here to Malaysia. Noel, let's continue where we left off. We were talking about your first book, or your early book on Control Your Destiny, and somebody else will. And recently you wrote another book called Succession. And succession is a topic that seems to get a lot of people excited, because many companies have tried putting together succession planning endeavors, but they all seem to somewhat fail or don't have results that they desire. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, several reasons. One is a lot of them are paper exercises. They go through the motions. It's I remember years ago at Honeywell, they used to call it Pictures and Bio Day.
Okay.
And you go into the CEO, here's a picture of Joe, here's his bio, what are we going to do with him next? And it was like the turning of the leaves in fall. It happens every year. Leaves fall off. It
Still happens
again
in
the next
many
year.
organizations today, right?
To this day, in the Succession book, I went looking worldwide. My best estimate is 80% of CEO succession doesn't work. Now, how do you say the measurement of it, whether it works or not? Does the company get better as a result of the new leader? HP, Hewlett-Packard, is the poster child of absolutely bad succession.
Right, with Carly
Four
and Mark and
successors in a row.
all external too, right?
And Apethker, and currently the former CEO of a high-tech company has come in a turnaround, and I don't think she's going to make it.
Why did they fail? I mean,
why is the current one not going to make it?
or why did HP
others
go
make
through
it?
this? Yeah.
A number of reasons. First of all, they didn't have any talent inside, so they had to go outside 3 times in a row.
Yep.
And my argument in the book is if you have to go outside for a successor, you have failed at grooming a pipeline. So number one, that's a big failure. And they kept picking people who didn't turn the company around, so it's gotten worse and worse. So they're my poster child of bad succession.
And why? I mean, what would be factors that enable success in succession planning?
I think the
mentioned one
most
is-
important part to me of good succession is you don't wait till the end.
Okay.
If you wait to pick the next CEO and it's 5 years before the other one retires, it's too late. And the lesson for me I got from Welch, 1985, he'd only been CEO for 5 years. He said, however I got to be CEO is irrelevant. The world was different, GE was different. I want you to take a clean sheet of paper and think through for tomorrow's leaders. What does a new hire have to look like? What do they have to do to develop? We hire 2,000 off-campus hires at GE, mostly engineers. When they become a first-time manager, 2,000 of those a year. What do they have to learn? What do they have to, and to graduate to the next level? It's almost like putting a curriculum together for education. First grade, second grade, third grade. What do they have to demonstrate? And then how do we build a platform for development? And he said something to me that was very profound. He said, don't kid yourself, Noel. Crotonville and all those leadership programs, 20% I'll give you. 80% is on the job and life experience. So you've got to move people around the company, give them different experiences. One example is Jim McNerney, who was a runner-up for the CEO, who's now CEO at Boeing. I mean, he started out in GE Information Systems. He was in construction equipment. He ran Asia Pacific. He ran the jet engine business. And then he didn't get it, and he went to 3M, and he's now at Boeing. He's a very successful career. But all of those experiences were far more important than Crotonville. I'd like to say it was all
So it's
Crotonville.
really about how do you craft experiences for your high potentials and enable them to...
And that's what we're doing with CP in Thailand. They have 300,000 people. They're in the food business. They're in 7-Eleven. They've got cellular phone business, 100,000 people in China. We're starting to rotate people's careers around the company, as well as have leadership development programs.
Yep. You know, the strange thing is most of the time when we look at CEOs developing their successes, they tend to find people that are similar to themselves. I mean, you tend to promote people that are like yourself. But in GE, strangely, you know, Reginald Jones picked someone completely opposite. I mean, Reg was a very, in Jack Welch, and then Jack didn't pick somebody like him. He picked Jeff Immelt. Why was that? Why was there a difference? Was there a process that GE followed?
Well, I think it goes back to having enough checks and balances in the system that you don't let the leader reproduce themselves, which is the tendency. I look back and this person's just like me. I think if you have enough checks and balances, you'll end up picking the person for tomorrow, not yesterday. Most companies still, around the world, I want someone like me.
Because
Wrong answer.
That's what you get comfortable with. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this break, back with Noel Tichy. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show, and we're here with Noel Tichy, who's been brought to us by Urban Forum. So Noel, we're going to do the Thinkonomic Challenge right now. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I have a little timer here, and I'm going to ask you 3 or 4 questions, and we'll see how fast you do with these questions. 30 seconds. I'm going to start it right now. First question: how should a company really give back to the community?
Every company that I think is worthwhile should have a global citizenship agenda. Environmental issues, human capital issues. The most important thing is that they get their people volunteering in those activities, not just giving money.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, here's next question. If you won $50 million in a lottery today, how much would you give away to charitable causes?
90% of it.
Okay, and you keep the 10% for?
I would, for my grandchildren.
All right. Oh, that's good. All right, here's a quick one. Everyone says leadership begins with you. How true is that statement?
I think it's absolutely true.
And why
leadership is autobiographical. A leader is what your journey line as a life during your life is about, and can you develop other leaders based on that and look in the mirror every day and make yourself better.
Okay, good answer. Okay, this one you might like. Do you believe in retirement, and would you retire?
I do not believe in retirement. My role model is Peter Drucker, who died at 95, still in the saddle. And I'm working with the former head of the Girl Scouts of America, who's 98 years old,
Wow.
running the Drucker Foundation, Francis Hesselbein. Those are my role models.
All right. Okay, and the last one. Which is more important to you when following a leader, results or inspiration?
Results.
Okay. And maybe we have time to squeeze one more in. To what degree have you actually controlled the course of your life, or the course your life has taken?
I believe that life can be controlled through planful opportunism. The only plan is knowing your values, knowing who you are. The opportunism part is you jump on unexpected opportunities.
All right, fantastic.
And
you passed the test.
Crotonville jumped out of nowhere. Welch said, would you want to come and run GE Crotonville? But I knew myself well enough to say yes or no.
And you said yes, thankfully.
I said yes.
And speaking of Crotonville, you know, the thing that's very interesting is that a lot of companies, right, in India, in China, in the US, they look at Crotonville as a model of brilliance, or they just love it and they say, let's build our own Crotonville. And they go about building big campuses, you know, putting together the same programs that GE did. And for whatever reasons, they seem to all not have succeeded as GE did. Why do you think that reason was, and what
that's true and not true.
Okay.
The ones that haven't succeeded built bricks and mortar, and the CEOs didn't get the important role of them being involved. Ratan Tata, I've worked with, absolutely got it and built a leadership institute, teaches there regularly.
So what's the secret sauce?
The key is that the leader is the head teacher.
Okay.
And Ratan Tata gets very involved. He's come back into the company. Infosys, another Indian company, has done the same. They have action learning programs. Wipro is another Indian company that's done it well.
Okay.
All because they understood that the job of the CEO or the founder is to be the head teacher.
Okay. So that is that is something that you think is the big difference between the ones that succeeded and didn't. And speaking of action learning, you seem to advocate it, in spite, and you prefer action learning versus classroom-based teaching in spite of you being an academic. What specifically is action learning, and maybe for laymen, can you briefly explain that whole thing?
Action learning is pretty simple. It's not just go out and do stuff. It's you prepare people with some fundamental skills and tools, but then you send them out for real application. I work a lot with medical doctors, residency programs. You learn medicine not in medical school. You learn it in the residency program by going around and treating actual patients. But you have a safety net. First-year resident does not intervene. They're there with a third-year resident. So it's more of a residency model. Okay. There's good science behind being a doctor, but there's an art form and you have to practice it. The same with leadership.
So it's really about the thing you talked about earlier, crafting those experiences so that you get the practice to become that ideal leader that you aspire them to be.
But you don't take rigorous framing, rigorous investigation. But the biggest waste of time in today's world is to sit around reading Harvard case studies about something that happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So what? Let's bring the leader into the class. And so I bring CEOs to my class. Before they come, they frame a real problem they want help on, and we give them real help.
And okay, I mean, in another book, maybe I'll end with this question. You talk a lot about CEOs needing to have good judgment as a critical basis for them to succeed. What do you mean? I mean, we all know judgment is important, but how do you develop that ability to make sound judgment?
To make sound judgments?
Yeah, consistently. Yeah.
Well, nobody using an American terminology, nobody bats 1,000. Nobody gets it 100% right. Yeah. But you better get more right than wrong, and you better not get wrong on ones that would kill the organization. But there are only 3 judgments that you make as a leader, whether you're running a small group or a big company. People, strategy, crisis. Who's on your team, off your team. Strategy, what mountain do we climb? Crisis, a storm hits. If you don't get the people right, you cannot set strategy if they're not a group sitting around that are trustworthy, can work together. And if you get in a crisis with the wrong people, and I painfully lived it at Ford Motor Company with Jack Nasser got fired, I got fired with him. He made a bad judgment call on the people around him, got into a crisis with the Firestone tires and Explorers tipping over, and his own team turned on him. And I've seen that movie a number of times, and it's not pretty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe to end this segment, my last final 2 questions is, what advice would you give a CEO if you're addressing a group of CEOs? Or what
to go through a crisis?
Oh, just any, if you got a chance to address a group of CEOs, what would you tell them? Like the most important things to you?
The most important thing is that you spend the time and energy to develop the next generation of leaders to take the company to the next level. And sadly, far too leaders do that. They outsource it to consultants or professors or HR staff. It is their number 1 job in my book.
Okay. And my final question, if somebody wants to be the next Noel Tichy, and they said, this guy's or a girl, maybe a young graduate from university and just came out the workplace, and they say, I aspire to be, a leader of stature, or I want to be successful in life. What advice would you give that person?
Well, if we're talking about students, I've run several doctoral programs, one at Columbia and one at Michigan, and I've got some of my students who are professors at Wharton and Stanford, all using action learning. So part of it is you walk the talk. I got them involved in dissertations out in the real world. I exposed them to action learning, and I hope they go on as professors to take that methodology to other places. So I just think you have to live it.
All right. Well, thank you, Noel, for being with us. You've been here on the Leaderonomics Show. Once again, we'd like to thank Urban Forum for providing and giving us the opportunity to spend time here with Noel Tichy from the University of Michigan.